Hello, my friend. Welcome back to the Mindset Check podcast. I'm your host, Misha McKittrick. This is a podcast where we believe that as you take time for a mindset check, you find that you have more power than you think you do. And where we also believe that the good old days are happening right now, and the more time that we spend clearing our mind and becoming present, sitting in gratitude, we understand that. We can check into that. That's what we're talking about today. I'm so excited. I'm so pumped. For those of you just joining us for the first time, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. Season 2 is what we're well into, and we are shifting from me reading in my journal from when I was 15, pregnant, went through lots of things, and, go through like 100 episodes of that. Now we shifted into my husband telling you some of the things that happened in his life and in his history, and how our lives are starting to cross paths. So it's super fun. Let's just jump right in.
Reflections, sophomore year. I can't believe it. My high school experience is halfway over. What a year. Our football team lost in the state championship, but our basketball team took state. That was the most amazing thing ever. Painted faces, the best band in the state. Our sports teams at Cedar High are always good, and the after-game dances are even better. I am loving these high school years. It's hard to understand so many kids staying at home. Soccer is for sure my favorite thing. I always loved it the most at recess or PE, but I only ever played City League a few times. I have always been naturally good at it. I remember at Fiddlers that even the 5th graders would pick me first when I was a 3rd grader. That always made me feel cool, but I hated seeing kids have to be picked last. Our high school team is terrible, though. I always thought I'd be a tennis player until soccer came my freshman year, so I made the switch. We have only won 1 game in 2 years. I don't know what is worse, our uniforms or our team, haha. But we should do better next year when I'm a junior. But hey, at least we are having fun. Having an October birthday was awesome, getting to go to dances sooner than most, and of course being able to drive with so much of the year left. But I didn't have it as good as Nate Ferguson, who had an early August birthday. We loved piling into his single-bench white Chevy truck for lunch. Sometimes it was 4 of us across that 3-seater. Sometimes more of us in the bed of the truck. The screeching sound of his fan belt made it even better. The usual seemed to be Wendy's for 2 junior bacon cheeseburgers for 99 cents each and a small Frosty, all for less than $3.25. This was a huge upgrade from eating at the school cafeteria or rushing on foot to places close to the school like Subway, Taco Time, or KB. It's ironic to make fun of kids walking to lunch when this was all of us the previous year. I get $20 per week to use it however I want for lunch. My mom has a way of being so generous, just like when she always goes way over budget on our school clothes. Don't tell Dad. I have been lucky to have my own car to drive, or should I say cars. My dad is always buying and selling cars from the auction. Cassie and I shared the Suzuki Samurai for a while. I would have loved a color other than pinkish purple or purplish pink, whatever it is, but what a cool little Jeep. Spinning Brodies in the snow, it's so light, or friends literally jumping into the back, it's so small. Oh, not to mention the jocks love to prank Cassie by picking it up and moving it to different locations, sometimes sideways over 2 stalls and blocked in. The trouble I got in that got me kicked off the football team seemed to come and go. It was the first time I had ever partied and already got busted. I learned that lesson the hard way. I can't say much for those that continue to get away with it. I felt so embarrassed being around my friends' parents who knew, but I'll never forget Josh's mom hugging me and making sure I knew I was always welcome at their house. That really meant a lot to me. Marilyn Carver, you are the best. You even take time out of your crazy life of 10 kids and grandkids to cut my hair sometimes. Cassie just graduated and will soon be off to Utah State for college. I can't thank her enough for how incredible the past 2 years have been because of her. Everyone deserves someone that watches out for them and makes life easier and better. I have the best sisters, and I'm so excited Lindy will be a freshman next year. Hopefully I can return the favor to her. Wow. It was crazy to see Misha. She came to pick up her yearbook, and I was shocked to suddenly be right there next to her. A total surprise. I honestly thought I'd never see her again. I don't even know how to be around her. I couldn't even be myself. It was a strange feeling wanting to talk to her, but it was awkward considering she's a married 15-year-old and now has a baby girl. It would have been even more crazy if her husband and baby were there. At first I was so excited just to see her, but then when she was gone, I just felt worse. It brought back how terrible it was last fall. Well, I'm excited to be an upperclassman, but not excited to have to figure out my first real summer job beyond mowing our lawn or cleaning my dad's office. Maybe these next 2 years will be even better.
You know, it's interesting that Jake has some detailed memories of when he saw me, when I was, off the table. And for me, my memories, I just had so many things going on. And there was a different feeling for me than obviously it would have been for Jake. It's interesting that it would have been Jake's normal atmosphere to be in a space where there were yearbooks and, high school kids and stuff like that. And for me, I was living like an entirely different life and then revisiting my old life. And when I walked into those circumstances, it felt like all the eyes were on me, and there was a lot more to think about. So I don't remember it the same way. But I think there's a really tender part in my heart that he remembers seeing me and how he feels. Sometimes I like to think or wonder, are we so interconnected that it sparks those feelings? And for me, I was not even in tune to that because I wasn't supposed to be, And for Jake, he didn't have the same weight, if that makes sense. That feels to make sense to me, but I don't know if that is something that's completely graspable when you're not the one that was in all the turmoil. In all of the, oh my word, I just fed my baby and I need to run to the school in the time that I have before I need to get back to her. That's what I was doing. It's so interesting. But I really hold really close to my heart, that when I was around, Jake noticed. Looking back, it gives me even more purpose being with him, feeling like that ignited in him, that like our future somehow was still stored. I know that's difficult to kind of grasp, but there are times even when I've been doing this project with my journal and reading it and sharing it and all of this stuff, that I kind of feel like my future self somehow inspired and prompted my young self, write in that journal. And I don't know how to explain that, but I like thinking about it. I hope you also like thinking about things that you can't answer, things that you don't know yet. It's like super profound. A huge part of this entry that's very near to my heart is the way that he talks about getting caught, and how Marilyn Carver was, his really good friend's mom, how she was toward him, and the way she put her arm around him and made sure that he knew that he was okay with her, right? And I feel like the influence of adults I talk about a lot because it's a very important topic. It seems to come up in this story that I tell so much because of the influence and the mentors that I also had. This is a topic I feel like we visit a lot. But I just, as a short reminder, we're not going to go into that today because it's a theme that we talk about on this podcast all the time. But just as a reminder, the influence of adults in kids' lives, they need us. They need us to talk to them. They need us to put our phones down. They need us to be engaged. They need us to show up for them. They need us to tell them, hey, you're okay with me. And I love you no matter what happens. Like, my love is not conditional. And remember the quote, every teenager is drowning, throw them a life jacket, right? That is like a mantra for me, because I get busy and I get working and I get doing my things. And then when I get the precious moments and I have to fight for them, you know, I have to say, no, like, son, sit down with me. I want to do this thing, or I want to have a moment with you or time with you or whatever. Just this last week, my son, my youngest, his school sent home a list of 13 questions. And these 13 questions were incredible, talking about, you know, what was your high school experience and what are the things that you can see that are coming up for me? How do you think, like, talking about how projecting and getting advice, like coaching them to get advice through these questions and the way they were formed. I posted about it on Instagram, and I put all of those questions, those 13 questions, in one of the comments on Instagram, because so if you're scrolling and you're trying to find it, PS, my Instagram is my friend Misha. So MESHA, my friend Misha. And if you go to Instagram and you just look for a picture of me with a boy, really that's all you're going to see. And then in that description for that reel, I've posted all 13 of those questions, because the sit down and the talk and the assignment, and I thought it was cool that the school didn't want the paperback, like they weren't grading it based on, you know, what they could write, but they wanted to be able to see that they had made notes on the paper, and they wanted us to take a selfie with the paper, and then that was how they completed the assignment. So they could kind of see that, you know, we had gone through the questions. But intentionally taking the time to sit down and actually have that conversation. And I don't know if you are consistently, I just feel like I'm consistently trying to get more and more out of my boys. I know that girls talk more than the boys, you know, but I'm consistently like, oh, say more, tell me more. What else do you have to say about that, or whatever, just to try to get a little bit more out of them, because boys are not as naturally inclined to talk and to share and all those things like girls are. Okay, but all of this to say, all of this sideways like conversation about how important it is that we just push pause and invest ourselves into the kids that are around us, and a reminder that when someone is struggling, that's when they need to know they're okay with you the most. When someone acts up, or, you know, that's when they need to know you love them. That's when they need to know. When I heard Jake report about how Marilyn was towards him, I just wrote next to my paper, love always wins. Love always wins. Lots of things get in the way, but love wins. And so just a little bit of a reminder, I know that's a message we get a lot on this podcast, but it's one of the most important messages that we can continually receive and replant in our hearts and remake the efforts to love our people and to love them hard. Another thing that I really loved from this entry was, I love how Jake said, you know, how terrible they were doing at soccer and their uniforms were terrible. And I've heard him describe those uniforms before, and I promise they were terrible. I don't even remember what they were, but for whatever reason, I'm thinking Barney, like purple and green, and I don't know, something like that. And I loved the part when Jake reported how bad it was, and like, maybe next year it will be better. And he said, but hey, at least we are having fun. And I just thought that is such a throwback to our episode just a couple of episodes ago. It was season 2, episode 3, Navigating with Confidence. And if you were listening to that one, we talked about how you don't have to be good at something to do it. You don't have to be good at something to enjoy it. The mere act of you enjoying it is the reason why you do it. My husband and I, so Jake and I wrote a poem for my dad before he passed away. And this poem's like a really precious poem. And I remember when we gave it to my dad for Christmas with like an imprint of my oldest hands. And the poem was titled Grandpa's Hands. And I remember that Christmas when my dad got that gift. It was a poem that Jake and I had put together for him, and he couldn't even read through it. Like, he had to pass it away for someone else to read it for him to enjoy this gift, because he couldn't see through the tears, because it was so representative of him. And it was talking about how what I will do with my own hands. The poem is titled Grandpa's Hands, and you know what? I'm just going to read it to you. And the part about it is about games, and that we have fun playing them no matter what the score is. But here's the poem, just to get a little grasp of this poem. Grandpa's Hands. Mom thinks it's great, and it's plain to see the similarities between Grandpa and me. She says someday I might understand the things my grandpa has done with his hands. His life has been full of service and labor, helping out family, close friends, and neighbors. Not always serious, more times than none, teaching my mom and my aunts to have fun. Fishing, hunting, and camping outdoors. Having fun playing games no matter the score. Top 40 DJ and disco king, always teaching what memories mean. His love and respect help create balance for eternal progression and developing talents. I picture my grandpa when I am alone, wondering what I'll do with hands of my own. I love that poem just kind of came up off the cuff for me, simply because I remembered the line, having fun playing games no matter the score. And that was something that my dad really instilled in me, that we don't do things because of the end result. We do things because of what it is when we're doing them, like when we're in them, you know? And that actually ties into so much of what I want to talk about today, which really is trying to grasp what things really are when we are in them. So Jake gives us this look back through, cars, the way that cars used to be, and how he and his friends piled all in that truck together, or sometimes in the back of the truck, and the sound of the fan belt. And you know how it was just a lot more normal for kids to kind of drive beaters back in the day versus today, I feel like, anyway. I feel like that's definitely true from like my angle and the way that life is around us. And I think having a beater is kind of a good thing for a kid. I definitely know that like my kids and some of their car experiences, and especially my middle, and learning how to fix cars because of a really incredible person that's in his life teaching him how to do that and learning to do those things. It's just so that hands-on kind of experience, and knowing how to figure life out when life doesn't quite go the way that you planned it, when your car breaks down, or kind of those things. I think that it also teaches you to respect cars when you come into a different situation where you have something really nice. There's a lot of different ways you could go with that conversation too, because I think having nice things helps your mindset be accustomed to having nice things. And when we kind of naturally draw those things towards us. That's a whole nother conversation that I think is also really interesting. But this memory, when Jake shares about cars like that, it brought up my sister had a couple of car situations that were beaters that were just really hilarious. One in particular was this really awesome white, just like little car. We have the funnest memories from this car because it used to be a driver's ed car. And so on my side of like the passenger side, up underneath the dash, there was this little lever that was like the brake, right? So the teacher could put the brake on if there was like an issue. But the obvious parts of the brake had been removed, and it was kind of underneath the dash. It was like not really noticeable unless you knew to kind of sneak your foot up underneath there, and then you could apply the brake. And obviously that could have got us into a lot of really bad situations. But I'll tell you the funniest one. We were at a light. And her like kind of crush at the time had pulled up next to us and was in the turning lane. So we were in the lane, and when the light turned green, so I ducked all the way down so that they couldn't see me in the car. And when the light turned green, I was holding my foot on the brake so Shelly couldn't go forward. And she's just like kind of like stuck or stalled, kind of looking like a fool. And honestly, it's mean, but in the same right, like Shelly's the kind of person, she just like reaches over and she's like hitting me, and we're laughing our guts out. And then we start going, and it gives the boys something to like look at and talk at. It was so hilarious. It was so funny. We have a ton of other fun memories in that car. There was one where we knew this certain hill that we would go down, and then there was a big dip at the end, and we could kind of jump the car. We would like kind of make it jump. I mean, look at this. These are kind of idiotic teenager things, right? But teenagers, they do them, and they push the limits, and that's what teenagers do. But I'll tell you, we would pack that little car full of people, and we would fly down that hill, and we would jump that ditch, and we would go flying, and we would laugh our guts out. It was hilarious. It was so funny. And so sometimes I think that the beaters bring us the great memories, right? Because whatever beater you were exposed to, you're thinking about now, and maybe that was some really hilarious memories for you. Who knows? But they throw unexpected things our way, and that's one of the things I love about it. And it's also a little nostalgic looking back in time. The same way that when Jake looks back on, the basketball team taking state and the after game dances, the painted faces at the basketball game. And then, like I said, these dances were very normal. We did this every single time there was a home game. There was also a dance. I mean, it was so much fun. It gave kids something to do. It was the best. It was the best. And it's sad to me that, like, our culture, we don't do that anymore. And Jake makes this comment. He makes the comment that he says, it's hard for me to understand the kids that stay home. So many kids that stay home. And so I kind of, on this podcast, we talk often like we never know what other people are going through and how to have compassion and to stay in that lane. And there's also another little bit of an angle here where sometimes people actually want to stay home. It's a choice, and it's a very healthy choice. It comes from, they're very active. It's just a day that they choose they want to stay home or whatever. But the way that I want to address this today about staying home is when it looks like you're missing out on life for whatever reason. For whatever reason that is. Whether it's fear, depression, or sadness or something, or not feeling accepted or invited, or, there could be an entire gamut of reasons why someone might stay home, right? And when we look at it through the angle or the lens of someone else staying home, like, why did those teenagers stay home back in the day? Or why are teenagers staying home now in this day? Or why did someone that I know choose to stay home and skip out on something that was really fun? But I think it becomes a little more powerful when we look at life from our own angle of in what ways are we staying home in life? In what ways are you staying home that is not recuperating and not recharging your bank? It's actually not serving you to not go out, hypothetically to go out, to go to the dance, to live the life, to step into some things and really come into the living. In what ways are you not doing that? Sometimes there are so many, valid kind of reasons why we do this. And I feel like if we take a moment and just take a look at it, then it gives us more reason to want to, sort of live life by the seat of our pants and live kind of a more exhilarating and fun life. Sometimes we're so responsible. I mean, it's a Friday night right now, and I'm sitting home recording this podcast. I'm really okay with it. We spent a lot of the day with family and celebrating someone who was graduating and at a park, and there were a lot of the good things. So I'm not trying to say that I'm not stepping up or out living life. But I think it's a really important thing for us to look at because it becomes trained behavior. So whether we're working too much or whether we are, too tired, we're forgetting that the things that are out there actually recharge us. They lift us. They make us better, right? To be exposed to other things that give us that charge. And I couldn't help but think about the song by Macklemore, Good Old Days, in having this sort of conversation. It's a song that I just love so much, right? He wishes he could go back and tell himself and show himself, these are the good old days. I wish I would have got up the courage to ask her to the dance, right? I wish I would have known when I was in it what I had. It says you don't know what you've got till it goes, till it's gone. We don't know. I mean, how many times have you looked at a current picture of yourself and judged yourself? And then if you give it 5 years or if you give it 10 years, you look back on that picture and you go, your feelings are completely different. For the most part, right? For the most part, you would look back and go, oh my gosh, I was so young. I was so thin. What was I thinking? Beating myself up, all those things. Gosh, time can bring us great perspective, but how do we shrink that and give it to us in that moment? That's it. That's a gift we can give ourselves. There's a book called The Missing Piece by Shel Silverstein. If you have never read this book or if you haven't read it for a really long time, I recommend just going to YouTube and searching it up and just watching it, be read to you. It's beautiful. There is this circle that's sort of more of like a Pac-Man piece, right? So it has a little pie shape cut out for a mouth and it has a little eye drawn on it. Very simple drawings. And this thing, it's referred to as an it, goes looking for its missing piece. It's on a quest. And it rolls up hills, it goes across oceans, and it's singing as it goes, I'm looking for my missing piece. And every piece it comes across, it sort of tries on. The same way Goldilocks tries on all the different sizes of beds and the oatmeal and all the things, right? So it tries on these missing pieces and it finds that one's too small, that one's too big, that one's too sharp, that one's too whatever, right? Doesn't work, doesn't fit. And so this circle continues its quest, continues looking for what it feels like is missing. And then one day it comes across the most perfect piece. And it's very excited. It found its missing piece. It fits perfectly. Oh my word. And then what happens? It tries to sing a song of celebration and it can't even sing. Oh, come on, my missing piece. It can't. It can't sing because its mouth is full. It says the line, oh my, now that it was complete, it could not sing at all. And then it says, ah, it thought, so that is how it is So it stops rolling and it sets the piece down gently. And it rolls away. It rolls away. It found the missing piece it had been searching for and searching for. And it realizes that that piece doesn't work, even though it is perfect. And there's something about that that's so beautiful that sometimes we think that what will make our life work, the thing that we don't actually have, we think that that's the thing we need, when that very thing is the thing that's allowing us to experience life. Let that sink in just for a little bit. Try to wrap your mind around it. There's another example that I'm going to give you from the movie Eat, Pray, Love. Another great one to revisit if you haven't seen it for a long time. Such a great flick. In this movie, Liz Gilbert is, it starts out with her like having everything. Money, a husband, a house, successful career, all the things. And she feels like she can't find herself. She's confused and she's searching for what she really wanted in life. And so she goes on this trip and travels everywhere. And at the end of the movie, she's struggling because she found a relationship that's really great. But she describes it as though she feels like when she's in that relationship, it's actually causing her to lose balance in her life. And Ketut, this very wise guru in Bali, says to her that sometimes to lose balance for love is part of living a balanced life. I think there is a lot of wisdom in us seeing that sometimes the ways and the reasons that life isn't really working, at least the way that we think, that's the very thing that makes our life work. It's the very thing that gives us purpose. It's the very thing that allows us to learn and to grow and to be the person that we are. The lyric by Joni Mitchell, don't it always seem to go, you don't know what you've got till it's gone. It's really just about recognizing. Recognizing when we're in it that these are the good old days. That right now, what we're living, will become the good old days. And what do we wish we would have told ourselves? What do we wish we would have said when we said, get out of the house, go and do what? Fill in the blank. I love Eckhart Tolle, and if you have never read any of his work, man, just pick anything up and just be completely filled. I love the book, The Power of Now, and I love this quote. He says, when your mind is making too much noise, it is difficult to feel the incredible joy that's inside of you. To the ego, the present moment hardly exists. Only past and future are considered important. Mic drop, right? So many times we cannot sit and enjoy the present moment because our mind is making too much noise. So what do? You find the present. You sit down and you take a breath. You feel your feet on the floor. Notice the air, the temperature. Notice any noises around you. Drop in and become a little bit more aware of what's happening. Take a moment to look at your life and to realize that it really might be whole just the way that it is. maybe the reason that you're striving and the reason why you have so much desire to continue to do whatever it is you're doing is because you don't have the thing that you're trying to get. And that's what's propelling you. That's actually why you're learning the wisdom you're learning. That's actually why you have a fire underneath you. Or maybe there's something going on with a family member that allows you to step up and really be an incredible person, like to really show this person how you love. Whatever it is for you. Pausing to see that maybe it is exactly as it should be. Giving yourself space and grace and allowing yourself the benefit of the doubt and loving yourself in the moment. Looking for the ways that your life works because it's out of balance. It's such a beautiful thing. I think that one of the best ways that we can acknowledge how these are the good old days is by dropping into gratitude and dropping into the present. So one suggestion for you is, if you have never done a gratitude journal, take 3 minutes at night and write down 3 things that you're grateful for. Try it for 1 week and see how it feels so different. Try it for 21 days. Your brain has changed. It's amazing. Drop into the present. Start to research that more. Read this book, The Power of Now. I'm telling you, it's so good. Eckhart says, the present moment is all you ever have. There is never a time when your life is not just this moment. When we train ourselves to be more present, we see more clearly. We appreciate. We live life more. We get out of the house, right? We do things not because of the end result. We do things because of the way things are when we're doing them. Like the line in Grandpa's hands. I hope that you can see that when you take time to recognize what you have in this moment, you can see that you have so much more than you thought you did. And that right there, my friend, brings you power. I love teaching you that you have more power than you think you do. Drop in to that gratitude and presence. I hope you loved today's episode. A reminder to share it if it touched you. Also, love the comments that we've been getting about the new structure for this season and Jake coming on and sharing. And I love even the comments that, Jake has such a great voice for the delivery and all of this stuff. It's just really cool to hear you and what you have to say on the other end. Times it touched you, times it pulled you out, times that it gave you that extra boost or whatever. That feeds me so much. If you have any questions or comments, always feel free to reach out to me. You can email me at hello@myfriendmisha.com. You can also DM me on Instagram. That is hello@myfriendmisha, MESHA. And, I'll go ahead and put the links for you in the show notes for those 13 questions, that post that I did on Instagram that I referenced in the episode. And I'll also put a link to the YouTube reading of the book, The Missing Piece, that I loved so much. I hope you love both of those things as well. And just to leave you with a reminder that the good old days are now. They're happening now. And when we have too much noise in our mind, it prohibits us from being able to enjoy the right now. So anything that you can do to help yourself step into a space where you clear your mind. So, you know, I love meditation. You know, I love spending time in heart coherence. I found another really great YouTube channel that puts out like 8 hours of music with these singing bowls, but there is a way that it just like affects you vibrationally on the inside, you know, like when you just sit and listen to it. So I'll also put a link to that in the show notes for you today. And I hope that you go and live an amazing week. With school year wrapping up and all the things that are going on, we have a ton going on. You know, my middle is in state cup soccer playoffs. This is a thrilling time. It's a thrilling time. Be in it. It's busy and there's a lot going on, and I know that, but I challenge you to be in it. Until next time, my friend.